Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Expat Stories from Around the World. I'm your host, Holy Joe Rock and Roll, and I, again, thank you for joining us today. Today is a story about ancient Egypt, started in 1963, when this expat, it's actually a woman, was a pregnant school teacher. She was married, pregnant school teacher, traveled to Egypt, she told me, with her school teacher colleagues. They were, I guess, working in Europe at the time, and they all went on vacation together. They were Americans, all went on vacation together to Egypt. And the interesting part of the story is they go to the pyramids. I'm sure many of you have been there. Maybe most of you would like to go see the pyramids. I saw the pyramids in 2008, and I'll have some comments on that later. But let's first talk about this woman and her trip to Egypt in 1963. So she was, I think she told me she was 3 months pregnant. And, if you have any kids or have been with a woman who's pregnant, usually right around the first trimester, the first 3 months. During the first 3 months, you can be a little bit queasy, let's say. But camels also are known to be not smooth animals. But she's at the pyramids, and she decides to do the touristy thing and pays good money. She told me it was $10 at the time, which is a lot of money in 1963 dollars, to ride on a camel. And she's riding on the camel, and the guy who's leading the camel, because you don't ride it by yourself, there's a guy leading the camel, and you go maybe 100 meters, like 100 yards, they turn around, and that's your ride. This woman said that the guy was purposely jerking the camel around, making her very uncomfortable, and she told him to stop doing that, and the guy refused. And she told me later that she believed what the guy was doing was trying to get her upset and uncomfortable so that she would pay him more money to stop doing that. But she refused to be extorted and stayed strong, but yelled at the guy, and eventually told him just to stop and let me off this camel. So the guy let her off the camel. She had already paid for the ride, and the boss, the Egyptian boss man, ran over to see what was the matter. And she complained as to what had happened, that this guy was rough with her, making her uncomfortable on purpose. He refused to stop. And the Egyptian camelman boss said, "Don't worry, lady, I will beat him. I will whip him." And that story just stuck with me because in 2008, I went to Egypt with my wife and a small son, and we did not go on the camel rides, that I can tell you. But here's what I saw, and I just want to share this with you since we're talking about Egypt and the pyramids. The pyramids, going to see the pyramids was always something that I wanted to see. They say it's one of the last of the 8 wonders of the ancient world, or 7 wonders of the ancient world. So here's what happens today, and this is what you'll probably experience. Just want to give you a little bit of background. Let's say you come there on a cruise ship or however you travel to Egypt. There's just a convoy of tourist buses, probably between 50 to 100 at a time, are at the pyramids. You're only allowed to be there for about 30 minutes. So, of course, there's a guard jeep usually at the front of the convoy. Every single bus has a armed guard on the bus. I believe that the armed guards on the bus are Coptic Christians. When the guy, at least our guy, he had a cross tattooed on his forearm, on his hand, which I learned later was a sign of the Coptic Christians. They do this as a sign of pride and respect, and it's a tradition. They mark themselves with a cross. But I didn't realize it at the time. I just barely saw it, and I thought that was kind of weird. I just figured he was Muslim because the woman who was giving the tour on the bus, or at least speaking, she definitely was Muslim, and talked about a little bit about Islam and the history of Egypt, which was a little bit different than the history of Egypt that I learned when I took a 32-hour course on the topic and became an Egyptologist. But anyhow, based upon her own words, one would have to conclude that the Egyptians were better off under the rule of the Romans than under the current Islamic.
It's 8 o'clock.
Than under the current Islamic military dictatorship, if you will. Anyhow, so we get to the pyramids in this giant tour bus. We pile out. It's a beautiful, sunny, hot day. It was actually December of 2008, so it's wintertime. I mean, I can imagine what the temperatures are like in the summertime. And I had about 20 seconds to like soak in these giant pyramids. And, maybe if I wasn't with my little son and my wife, my reaction would have been different. But after 20 seconds of just standing there saying, wow, these things are huge, I got swarmed by these semi-literate beggars, trinket sellers, begging you to buy their shit, probably made in China, claiming that it was €1. So the person had one person had these wooden carved, like a carved elephant, carved, carved pyramid, carved eglops, whatever, looks like the Washington Memorial. I forget what this thing's called, this vertical column that's very popular in Egypt. Things like that. In one hand, he had a bunch of these wooden things, and also in a bag. And then in his other hand, he had a bag of plastic bags. And he was saying, €1, €1. And I'm thinking, I don't need this crap in my house, but for €1, I'll take a look. So I asked him to come over. So I asked this guy to come over. I said, what do you have for €1? And he says, what do you like? Which one do you like? I said, I like this one. It's €1? He said, no, it's €1 for the bag. I'm like, come on, man. How much is for that thing? And it was like €20 for some wooden carving of an elephant. I'm like, dude, I'm not paying €20 for this piece of shit probably made in China. So he got all pissed off, and I was like, just get away from me, man. He kept begging me to buy shit. And then another guy comes, not selling anything, but he says, and I swear to God, he says, I will give you 1 million camels for your wife. And I said, Aklan was Aklan. Which I believe means welcome in Egyptian Arabic. And he didn't understand me, so I repeated myself and said, Aklan was Aklan. And he finally said, oh, Aklan was Aklan. I said, that's what the fuck I said. That's what I said. So then he just backed off. And he was disgusting, man. This guy looked like either he was eating Cheetos, but his teeth were all orange, and it had that gunk on it. And whatever. It was just, I was like, dude, this place is sick. And then, before you knew it, we walked around a little bit. Oh, the Coptic security guard actually had to tell this guy to get the F away from us. I don't know what he said, but as soon as he said what he said, these guys vanished. Okay? So then we walk over to the Sphinx. We walk over to where the Sphinx is, and I want to take a picture of the Sphinx just by itself. And this guy comes and says, I'll take a picture of you. Stand there. I'll take a picture of you. No money, no money. I'm like, all right, take a picture. So he takes a picture, and he has my camera, right? It's a Canon EOS 350. I don't know, one of the original SLRs, digital SLRs. And now he wants some money. And I'm like, dude, you said no money. Give me my camera back. I just grabbed it back. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Come on, man. Come on. If you say no money, okay, no money means no money. And look, here's the thing. It's not that I wouldn't have given him some money. I didn't have any small change, right? I don't live in a Euro country. And the cruise ship that took us to Egypt started in Italy. And I just had like a 10-euro note and a 20-euro note. I think I only had a 20-euro note. That was the smallest thing that I had. So I had no change. But I swear to you, if I had like a euro, I would have given the guy a euro, right? I would have given the guy a euro just to, because he took a picture. And I could see that he took a pretty good picture because I could review it on the LCD screen. Then what happened? Then these guys by the Sphinx, they start chasing after us with a stack of fake papyrus paper, right? You can tell it was printed on a laser printer, right? And they did a good job. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't do a bad job. They did a good job of making it look like papyrus paper. But when you feel the paper, you know this is just heavy-duty, white, whatever, heavy-duty paper that's been printed with a color laser printer on both sides to look like parchment paper, and it had the color icons or Egyptography, whatever, pictography on it, right? And when he found out that I was from Poland, where are you from? I said, I'm from Poland. He starts speaking Polish. And I'm thinking to myself, man, what a screwed up country. Here's a guy who at least speaks English, Egyptian, and at least a few words of Polish, and he's selling parchment paper to tourists. Now, what the fuck kind of life is that? What has Islam done to Egypt? Egypt, 5,000 years ago, was the superpower of the known world. I mean, even bigger and better than China, ancient China. I mean, maybe China invented the compass and the gunpowder, but that was thousands of years later. We're talking even pre-China, right? Egypt was the shizzle, right? Everybody wanted to be Egyptian. The Romans wanted to be Egyptian. Even the Greeks, had love for Egypt, right? So, man, it was just really, I have to say, it was really very depressing to see that in 2008, December 2008. And like a lot of third world countries, when you drive back to get on the tour bus, back on the ship, you go through parts of Cairo, and you just see how these people, and I think part of it is a tax regime, that they don't finish their house on purpose. They leave the roof. I guess the roof is covered, but they have what looks like a third or fourth story unfinished. And the point of that is to say, the building's not finished, so I don't have to pay my taxes, right? But it makes everything look like shit because you have all these buildings which look like they're not finished. And it's, you know what I mean? Like, people will scam no matter where they are to not pay their taxes. And if this is the one loophole that they can use to not pay their taxes, is what they're doing. But honestly, it just makes the place look really horrible. And the city of Cairo actually extends to maybe 5 kilometers away from the pyramids at Giza. I mean, it really, from the closest building, from the pyramids you can turn around and look and you can see buildings just a few clicks away. So it really has encroached into this area. So really, for me, I can't say that Egypt has changed at all since 1963 based upon what this expat had told me, her story. I mean, it's hard to say. It's sad to say. It hasn't really changed. And it's really sad. It's really sad. That's really what I want to say about that. And, if you have the pyramids on your bucket list, just be aware that is what you can expect. Because I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Especially now, since after the ousting of Mubarak, and the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood, and then the collapse of the Muslim Brotherhood, military taking over. At least the country is stable. At least they have that stability there. But it's not a pretty sight. I think you're going to be disappointed. Probably if you're a single guy, kind of adventurous, maybe this stuff wouldn't bother you. You just roll with it. But okay, honey. But since I was there with, my wife and a small child, it just was like, I guess you go into defense mode, like, get the hell away from my kid, especially. My wife, you could maybe I'll sell the wife for $1,000,000 camels, but you sure as hell ain't going to touch my kid, right? So this has been Expat Stories from Around the World. I'm Holy Joe Rock and Roll. I appreciate you staying and listening, and I hope you enjoy the story. Remember, in life, you're the captain. You're the captain of your ship, and you need to make it happen for the captain, all right? Because you're the captain. I'm Holy Joe Rock and Roll. Till next time.